let's kick off. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Matthias. I'm an investment manager at Rusmedia. Really looking forward to hosting this webinar today. Thank you all for joining. And with me here today is Alexander Katzmaier, who is the managing director of Bergfex, one of our portfolio companies. And he will be presenting the webinar today on building a cost-efficient data analytics setup from scratch. Alex will share some insights into the setup that he and his team have built up with Bergfex over the last months. And yeah, we're very excited to hear those stories. One more thing before we get started. We would really like, again, to make this webinar very interactive. So if you have any questions anytime, feel free to either point them out or just write them in the chat here, and then we'll address those questions right away. No need to wait until the end and save up all your questions until the end. And also, I think one more thing before we get started as well, I would really encourage you all to turn on your cameras as well. That way we can see who's here, and it just makes it a bit easier for us and a bit more interactive to see who's joining, and it feels a bit more, even after a long time of Corona impact on meetings. We're still in a virtual setup, but that sort of makes it a bit easier to feel more like that we're meeting in real life, so to say. Before we kick it off, Alex, do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. A few words to myself. I'm Alexander Katzmaier. I'm the co-managing director of Bergfex since the beginning of this year. So I'm quite new to the company Bergfex, but I have experience working for digital marketplaces because the last 3 years I worked for Karriere.at. It's the biggest job board in Austria, and I was part of the top management team and was mainly responsible for the product management and marketing. I also led a few of the portfolio companies of the smaller one. So I have a tech background, but I'm no expert in data science or any kind of data stuff. So I would like to give you insights about our data analytics setup, what we have learned in the last few months when we implemented it at Bergfex. But I will try to answer all your detailed questions. If you have any, I will do my best for that.
Cool. Then yeah, let's get started with the presentation.
So
we'll have a few points during this webinar today. We'll have a few polls to the audience, so to you, and I would really encourage you to either scan the QR link here, QR code, or just follow that link. I just posted it in the chat. Then makes it a bit easier for us to track the polls in real time. And yeah, just a few seconds so you can log in. And whenever you're ready, we see a few people joining. Great. I think the first slide is one of the polls anyway, so we can try it right away. Great. We just wanted to find out basically who is here with us today, and I would really just ask you to answer the questions. Alex, if you can open the poll, and then 30 seconds, just tell us if you're an entrepreneur, M&A advisor, investor, a manager, a data engineer, or something we haven't thought of. Cool. We have 12 people. All right, so yeah, pretty diverse group. Majority of entrepreneurs, but also quite a few others. Just let us know if you want what your role is, and if you're not one of the things that were mentioned, but we can also get back to that at a later point.
So I think it would be easier for all of you if you know a little bit about Bergfex to understand it better when I mention some kind of our company. Well, Bergfex is right now Europe's leading auto information platform in the Alps. It was founded more than 20 years ago in Austria and in Graz. And Bergfex started with information about ski resorts and snow conditions, especially in Austria and Switzerland. And at the beginning, ski resorts noticed that the customers, the people who came skiing, were using Bergfex before they came skiing for weather conditions, for snow conditions, and so on. And that was the really start of the core product, of the starting product of selling banner ads, especially to ski resorts. Right now, Bergfex is much more. We cover several thousand tourist destinations. We also improved the website. We have some booking platform functionality for more than 8,000 accommodations in the Alps. And Bergfex is one of the biggest websites in Austria. We normally have more than 65 million unique users every year. We also provide 3 mobile apps, one for touring, one for weather, and one for skiing. And you have the possibility in all 3 apps to purchase a premium subscription. So that is also an additional revenue stream. And last year there was a big change for Bergfex. They joined the Russ Media Equity Partners Network, but all 3 founders are still on board. The Bergfex was founded of 3 cool guys of Steiermark in Austria, and they're still on board, and it's quite cool to work with them as well.
Cool. Thanks a lot for the short intro to Bergfex. Also very short intro from the Russ Media side. What is Russ Media Equity Partners? I think most of you know Russ Media Equity Partners already. If not, I'll just be very brief here. Russ Media Equity Partners is an investor in online marketplace and software as a service companies. We invest into profitable digital companies, so profitable digital online marketplace and SaaS companies. We aim to acquire majorities in those companies, but we really want the founder or the existing management to stay on board and also still have shares in the business that they're running and then benefit from the outside. We also rely on these people to run the businesses, so we're not as operational. So we sort of try to facilitate knowledge and know-how exchange within the group, and give you obviously access to the big network of Russ Media, but you will not be integrated into a corporation. So you can still run your business as you did before, but sell some shares and yeah, maybe get a few ideas from us. But that's mainly the concept, I would say.
Cool. Then before I really start with our learnings, I would like to I want to say a few words about why is data so important from my personal perspective. There's one famous quote, maybe most of you know, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, or if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And I think it's especially true for digital businesses because you have a lot of data, and it's becoming more and more famous or popular to make data-driven decisions, not only trusting your gut feeling, trusting your data. I think that's one case why data is so important. But they also like the second quote, nothing becomes more important just because you can measure it. It becomes more measurable, that's all. So the advice here is use your data wisely. You need people who can interpret the data, who will use the data. It doesn't help you a lot if you only measure the data. And today in the webinar, I would like to give you some insights about that. Normally, you have a lot of data in digital businesses. You have data in your CRM system, you have data in Google Analytics, you have data in Firebase if you're using mobile apps, you have data in your accounting system, and so on. You normally have a lot of data. And one challenge is accessing that data regularly and easily, because otherwise it's really hard to make data-driven decision. And well, I would like to give you some insights how we solved that challenge. So Matthias, why is data so important from an investor perspective?
Yeah, I think from an investor's point of view, a few words also on why we are such big proponents of tracking the right data is, I think the first touch point we usually have with the companies, and when we try to invest into a company, is during the sales or acquisition process for us. And data is the main information that we can draw on. You have a few talks with the management and the founders, but getting access to that data is really the most important thing that helps us to estimate and to assess whether a company is actually a good fit for us, whether it fits in our investment criteria or it doesn't. Secondly, we also, we run a portfolio of 21 digital companies across, I think, 8 different countries, and all those companies are managed by CEOs on the ground and not by us ourselves. So in order to assess how well these companies are doing, we need to rely on the data that they're providing. This also allows us to really compare the different companies in our portfolios, find out if there are any areas of the companies where they're not reaching their full potential, where they're having some issues as well, and then we can really see and how we can connect those people or the people of that company to the right people in the group who have experienced the same struggles or the same issues in the past, and really help them solve those problems or challenges along the way. And thirdly, I think data really helps us to plan better for the future and also see if we're on track with our goals, and also react faster due to changing market conditions. I think this was especially true over the last year and a half during the Corona pandemic, where we could really react to the changing market environments very quickly with all the data that we have implemented by now in our portfolio companies. But as Alex mentioned, there is always an abundance of data available. I think the key thing is figuring out what the right KPIs are and what are the main drivers that really drive your business. So yeah, I think that's a few insights to our motivation. And yeah, another poll for you. So please join the aha slides again. We would really like to find out from your perspective, what are the current challenges you have with your data? Is it measuring the data? Is it extracting and transforming the data? Is it the visualization of the data, the interpretation, maybe automating the data workflows? Or is it budgets and the costs associated with all these things? So please, again, 60 seconds, just let us know what your current challenges are. All right, couple more seconds. Thanks. So Alex, what do you think of these results?
It looks like we have challenges everywhere, but not so, but not on the budget level. That's quite surprising. But hopefully I can give a few ideas of how you can solve your challenges with data. So now I would like to really start with the content and our learnings, and I would like to give you a quick insight where we started a few months ago. What was our data analytics setup at the beginning? And I think that way I could imagine that especially smaller companies see a similar setup or similar picture. As you can see on the left side, it's a screenshot of our self-developed KPI dashboard. As you know, Bergfex was founded more than 20 years ago. There haven't been so much BI cloud-based tools available, so it's not surprising that they have some kind of self-developed tool. But we are also accessing data, or we access data directly in the tools like Google Play console for accessing the data of our mobile app for Android. On the top, in the center, you see in Google Analytics, we have a lot of data. There's a big website in Google Analytics. We diving into the data directly in Analytics. We're also accessing data from the Apple App Store. And on the right, you can see some kind of Excel reporting to our investor. It also helps us to see if we are on track. And normally you see a similar picture that you have a lot of data sources. Most of the tools also provide some kind of functionality to access the data. But if you want to make data-driven decision or combining the data, you need to log into every system and export the data everywhere. So the next quick and last question. What is your main data analytics setup right now? That's something we want to know. I have limited the possibility to answer to one, so there's no multiple choice. I could imagine that you have a mix of the answers. So maybe you have a self-developed solution and you're using Excel, or you're using a self-developed solution and a BI platform. So please think about what is your main data analytics setup. So what are you using daily? What are most of the people are using daily in your work? So I'm quite interested to the answers. Okay, cool. I think most of you are not using a really high standard, like you're using a self-developed tool, or you're using Excel or no analytics setup, or you're accessing the data directly, but also 4+1 using a BI platform. So hopefully the next few slides are quite interesting for you. And I would like to start here with our vision. What was our vision when we started? Our big vision was that we wanted to have all the data easy accessible at one place. And the reason why I mentioned that vision is, when it comes to our goal, and you break that vision down, it was more like having an automated reporting solution. That was our main goal. But we wanted that solution, which we created in the last few months, should enable us later to scale it to a fully business intelligence approach. What do I mean by business intelligence? I mean when all the people in the company are using the tool, when they are diving into the data, when they want to find answers in the data. And for me, reporting solution is more showing the data in one dashboard and access the data very easily. We also set some limitations for ourselves. We called it analytics prototype. We didn't know if it's possible to do that. We wanted to do it for a budget less than 500 euros per month. We wanted to have something that is easy to set up, easy to manage, and we wanted to do it without any developer knowledge or big developer knowledge. We wanted to do it with SQL knowledge only, so without any written code. And we wanted to see or have the main dashboards within the first 1 or 2 months. That was our goals when we started. And we draw a big picture of the data analytics setup, and it looked a little bit like that. So at the bottom, normally you have several kind of data sources. Then in the middle, you have your data analytics database, your single source of truth, and we wanted to do all the transformation there. And then we have the data visualization layer at the top. Well, normally you have several data sources. If you have already mentioned, like Google Play or Apple App Store, normally you're using some kind of CRM system like HubSpot. Maybe you have some kind of Google Sheets, your own database, your own business data. You're also using Google Analytics, Search Console, and normally much more like any marketing automation tool, ticketing tool, all that kind of stuff. And then in the middle layer, maybe we thought we can use a normal database like MySQL, or we can choose a data warehouse like Google BigQuery, Amazon Redshift, and so on. And then we wanted to extract all the data from the data sources to the middle layer, to the data analytics database, to have all the data in that single source of truth. And there are some kind of tools available. It's called ELT for extract, load, and transform. And then you have the data visualization layer. You can use Domo, you can use Clipfolio, you can use Google Data Studio, you can use Tableau, and much more. A few words to Domo. Domo is much more than only data visualization. That's a full service provider for the data analytics setup or BI setup. So Domo also have a data warehouse. They also have their own connectors, like the ELT tools to extract all the data from the sources. But we decided against one tool for all layers, because if you do that, you're fully dependent on then one tool. If they increase prices, you have to do that, and we couldn't change any parts of the whole data analytics setup. So we saw Domo more like an option for the data visualization, but we decided against Domo for the whole setup. But if you want to have it really easy, and I know a lot of companies who are really happy with Domo, you can do it with Domo as well. So it should give you more like an idea how we solved it and why we decided for that, but it's not the one solution for everyone. So that was our big picture, and now what is the current solution and our learnings? As you can see at the bottom, our data sources, the main ones I have already mentioned, Google Play, Apple App Store, HubSpot, our own database, Google Analytics, and so on. We decided for Google BigQuery as the single source of truth as our data warehouse. And we are using 3 different ELT tools right now. We are using Fivetran, we are using Stitch, and we are using a Google Play connector. So I would like to start with the Google Play connector. That's Google BigQuery, or Google provides for BigQuery that it automatically extracts all the data from the Google Play directly into Google BigQuery. We are using Fivetran for the Apple App Store, because it was the only ELT tool we have found that has a direct integration with the Apple App Store and that extracts the data from there. And the reason why we're using Stitch additionally to Fivetran is Fivetran gets or has a usage-based business model, so it gets more expensive the more data you're using. In Stitch is connector-based, so we're using Stitch for all the other tools, and it was the most cost-efficient solution for us. And we decided for Google Data Studio as in the data visualization layer, because it was easy to use. Well, that's the solution or our current tool setup for the analytics prototype, if you would like to call it like this. A few more words to Google BigQuery, because that was something that's something I really like, and I've learned a lot, and I haven't known about before. As you can see on the left, it's a data warehouse, and it's organized like a normal database. You have your schemas, the data tables. As you can see here, we have the schemas for our data sources like the Apple, the Google Play, or HubSpot, or our own KPIs. And then the magic is in the middle. We are transforming the data from the raw data. We are writing SQL statements, the select statements. And the cool thing about Google BigQuery is that you can schedule that queries or when it should be run in your data warehouse. As you can see here, they run daily in the night. And also the cool thing is it automatically deletes all the data from the table and writes the full result into the table again. So normally, if you're using a normal database, you have to write some code for this, and it can be automatically done in Google BigQuery. And then on the right, we are writing all the results in a views database schema, and then in different tables. And the reason for that is that we didn't want to access from the data visualization directly the raw data, because the raw data can change in the tools. And if we transform that, we can make it more easier for the data visualization tool. And if something changes in the raw data, we only need to update the select statement, but we need not change all the data dashboards. So as you can see here, we have created a lot of Google Data Studio dashboards in the last few weeks and months. It's really easy if you have prepared the data or transformed the data. You can create every different kind of bar charts, diagrams, and what you like. So we're using it for the monthly reporting. As you can see on the right, we're also using it for a 7-day dashboard for touring the upload, where we normally look daily. We're quite happy with it right now. So now, when it comes to the costs, it's also interesting. Google BigQuery costs us right now $0. The business model is based on query usage and storage. And as you can see here on the query usage, the first terabyte per month is free. And for the storage, also the first 10 gigabytes are free each month. And we don't have that much data right now because we're not using it as a data warehouse. We are using it more like a single source of truth as a simple database. The ELT tools cost us about $100 to $150 every month. So overall about $250 to $300. And Google Data Studio is also free. So right now we can do it for around €250 per month. Now, what are our key takeaways, our key learnings? You will need several ELT tools or your own written connectors to integrate all your tools and data. The reason why I wanted to mention that is it wasn't easy to find an ELT tool that has a connector to Apple App Store. And maybe if you integrate other tools in the future, or not so famous tools, you don't have a connector, or your ELT tool doesn't have a connector, so you need an additional tool which has that connector. So it's I think you need several tools for that, where you have to write your own connectors. I really like Google BigQuery. It's super fast and super convenient. Google Data Studio, as I mentioned, is also really easy. But I think it's not the best tool for diving into the data and working in a team. It's more like individual reporting. It's quite cool. But as I mentioned at the beginning, we wanted to set up a solution that can scale to a fully business intelligence approach in the future. And I don't think right now that Google Data Studio is the right tool for that. It's good for to start the project, to see results very very quick. But right now we think about changing Google Data Studio to a different tool. Well, understanding and transforming the raw data takes time and is sometimes a challenge. It looks quite easy in a few slides, but as you can imagine, when you have the data from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store, it's not so easy to understand how they store the data. When you want to answer a question like how many customers are new customers, what are renewals of your subscriptions, what is a cancellation of trial period, or the cancellations of the purchase product, what is the customer lifetime value and something like that. So you need to dive into the data, and you need to define the right SQL statements in the end. The next key takeaway is a good investor will support you defining your major KPIs, and normally they have some kind of reporting guideline, and that will help you looking at your business data regularly, because you have a monthly reporting and some kind of stuff. And sometimes it's also not so easy to define your 5 or 10 major KPIs, which really the big drivers of your company. And investors have several tools in several companies in their portfolio, and normally they have some kind of guidance for that. Well, if you have a good formatted and transformed views, then the visualization part is easy, and you can create new dashboards extremely fast. So the magic, in my perspective, happens in the transformation, in the Google BigQuery, in writing the right SQL statements to prepare the views. Then the visualization part is the easiest one. And the last one, it was our key takeaways: building a cost-efficient data analytics setup from scratch is possible, and you will also see your first results very quickly. So we made it, I think, in the first 1 or 2 months. We had the main dashboards set up, and we saved a lot of time, and we are looking at the dashboards now daily, and that's quite cool. Well, hopefully there were some ideas for you to find your right setup, and I'm really looking forward to your questions, and I will do my best to give you cool answers.
Thanks a lot, Alex, for the really insightful presentation today. Yeah, anybody have any questions? I mean, by now you can also just talk out loud, and no need to put them in the chat if you don't want.
Yeah, I have one question maybe. So thanks for the great presentation. So I can imagine you have a lot of data, you have many sources. Did you create also an architecture overview, which fields that you have an overview for which source, which fields you use? So if something changes, that you can react quickly on that?
No, right now we have no documentation about our data sources or fields or tables and all that kind of stuff. So if something breaks right now, the dashboard is not working, but no one get notified or something like that. So that's also a next step for us, but it was more like finding out the right tool setup or process to create the first dashboards. And now we have to do the next steps.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm curious to find out, as you presented it, it sounded very simple. You integrate here and there and it's done. But how much time and how many people did it take to set this up?
We had one guy from the development team who set it up. It was a good starting point. It was good to create the main dashboards. It was easy. It didn't take us a lot of time to manage it right now, because we do not change so much in the dashboards right now, or we do not add a lot of different data sources right now, because we wanted to have the main KPIs or the main dashboards set up. So But the cool thing is we only needed one guy who made that as a side project. There's no one person or team that is totally focused on data setup. We didn't have that resources right now in the team, so we had no alternative to do it as a side project.
Okay, thank you. So another question from our side. Did you already had the data warehouse? So you just started to make the visualization, or you started to put it together during the project also?
Yeah, we started totally from scratch. So we had no BigQuery set up before. The reason why we decided for Google BigQuery in the end was quite funny, because they provided that Google Play connector, and we haven't found another ELT tool that has a good integration with Google Play Store. And that was the reason why we tried Google BigQuery. First, we thought of using a cloud database for that, but we really like BigQuery right now. But we started totally from scratch. We had no ELT tool, we had no data warehouse, and we had no knowledge in the Google Data Studio visualization.
Thank you. And you also redefined the datas or the field that you have. So you, let's say that you expanded the data that you had, or you had the collection of the datas and you knew where to go and build the data warehouse. And so did you make some analysis regarding what kind of data you have and what the goal that you want to reach with them?
So hopefully I understood your questions correctly. So your question is if we didn't know before what we wanted to visualize. Is that correct? Or
well, the first question is that you let's say that checked what kind of data. So you had some kind of data, then you sit down and rethink that the data that you collect and you have and rebuild the warehouse, or you have so the expanded the data amount that you are keeping gathering with, or just started to with the existing parts build up dashboards and then to expand it.
Yeah, we started with the data that is available in the tools like Google Analytics, in our CRM system, in Google Play Store or Apple App Store. So you have no possibility to extend the data of the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. We could track more in Google Analytics, but we haven't done that. So we only use the existing data. Well, yeah, we only use the existing data. We haven't, but most of the data or most of the major KPIs, that data was already available, because as you know, when you have a company for several years, the major KPIs, for example, what you have to report to your investors, financial data and so on, you have that data, but most of the time it's not so easy to get that data. You have to log in, have to do some kind of filtering, and then put that number in an Excel. And that was where we started. We only used existing data.
Thank you.
I think Alex, just a short note. Could you stop the sharing of the screen? Then we can see all the people.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody have any other questions to Alex? See, maybe a question from my side to you, Alex. You told us how you set this new setup up basically, and how you did that. But what are the next steps? Where do you go from here?
Yeah. Well, one major next step is finding a better tool for the visualization part. That's one thing, because Google Data Studio has some kind of limitations. To give you one example, if you're showing your data in a graph, it's not so easy to show numbers like year-over-year comparison. You show the absolute numbers compared to last year, that's easy. It's not so easy to show some kind of numbers for year-over-year comparison. If you compare it to Domo or Tableau, you have much more functionality. What do you want to show when you click into it, or when you hover with the mouse and something like that. So it's also, as I mentioned, when you would like to work in a team, it's not so easy because you need to create some kind of company Google account, and then that's the owner, and you have to give access to that report to the people. And if you're using Tableau or Domo or something like that, you have user access. You can give users different access to the reports and some kind of stuff. So that's one major next step. And the second one is to find a process for the data governance, like when something breaks, who gets notified, who has to solve it in a defined time and something like that. So we are also thinking about bringing a guy to the team who has knowledge in data, but it's not only fully focused on creating dashboards, but also more like preparing data for product teams, maybe to find some data that can help us in creating more revenue or something like that. So that's also something we think about right now.
Thanks a lot.
And I have another question for you, Matthias, this time. I know that Trust Media Equity Partners and the entire team is involved in supporting portfolio companies in setting up these types of activities. How did you support Bergfex in this?
I think one of the main things on how we supported and how we also supported other companies in this process is, on the one hand, what Alex already mentioned is helping defining the main core KPIs that we use to analyze and track the business. I think that's the first thing. And from an organizational or process point of view, I think one of the main things or the main value we brought to the table was offering our network, basically. We could connect Alex and the team with other companies in our group who've been going through the same transformation already, who are using different tools, and give them a rundown on how they work, a short demo basically on how those tools work. And also, once they decide on using a certain tool, within our group, we have some group contracts with some of the big tools where we can give smaller companies access to those tools at very competitive prices. So I think that's also a main thing. And also, I mean, we have a network of experts in all these different areas, and I think the main thing is really we're trying to facilitate that sharing of the know-how and facilitating the help of other experts and really connecting people and bringing them together. Any other questions? If not, then Alex, big thank you from my side also to you and the insights you gave us today in this webinar. Also, big thank you to everyone who joined the webinar today. Just a short note, I'd encourage you to really, in order to follow on the progress of how we're doing and the other events and webinars we're setting up, just follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook or all the channels that we have. And yeah, it was a pleasure to host this webinar again. And yeah, we'll do those on a regular basis. I think a bit less in the summer when everyone is on holiday, but we'll go back to a regular schedule soon in the summer. And yeah, we're excited to always share knowledge and just really, even now that all the countries are sort of recovering and waking up again, and we don't only have to rely on Zoom exchanges, but yeah, let's really hope to set up a short event soon as well again, where we can all meet and yeah, we're all missing those. I have to be honest. So yeah, thanks everyone, and yeah, hope to speak to you soon.
Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.